Welcome to the Remedy Podcast. This podcast is a project of WEBB Squared, a North Carolina nonprofit that works to increase wealth for Black businesses through connection, network, and opportunity. Our host is Stephanie Terry, the Executive Director of WEBB Squared, and our co-hosts are Associate Director Rinnie and myself, Mashallah Salaam. I am the Media and Production Specialist. In this podcast, we hope to bring consciousness to the racial divide and speak on emerging new narratives about race. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you will enjoy the podcast.
What's underneath the situation you don't realize. So let's examine with a critical eye. Put on your glasses and let it magnify the truth that lies hidden under all those lies. Cause everybody has nobility, and if you look beyond what your eyes can see, you'll see they're just like you and me, and now we're giving you the remedy.
Hey, Rinnie.
Hey, Stephanie. Hey, Mashallah.
Hi. Welcome to the Remedy. Sorry if I'm sounding a little drunk. I'm not drunk.
No.
I'm sleepy.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of that going around this week. Yeah, it can be helped sometimes, but we're here. We're back. We're doing our second recording for our Remedy podcast, and today we're talking about the washerwoman strike of 1881.
Yeah.
So before we get started, though, I was thinking maybe it would be a good idea to share with people the work that we're doing with WEBB Squared. We talked about it a little bit last week, but again, what does WEBB Squared stand for, Stephanie?
So WEBB Squared is Wealth Through Entrepreneurship for Black businesses, and we are a nonprofit dedicated and committed to helping small Black businesses. So if you got a hustle, a hobby, or you provide a skill or a service, and you're not home letting your business run itself, you're out here making it happen, then we're for you. We support entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs coming out of North Carolina. We love to support Black entrepreneurs coming out of rural North Carolina. And we're located right here in Pittsburgh, North Carolina at the plant.
Yes, the plant is such an awesome place. Y'all should come by. We're here Monday through Friday. Mm-hmm. And you should come by and visit with us and learn more about what we're doing. I thought it would be nice today to just talk really briefly about the history and how we got started, and just lift up some of our founding members and their entrepreneur activities. I brought you into our Commonwealth Network meeting back in October last year, and then from there, everybody clicked, and we just let's do something for Black entrepreneurs. And then before we know it, we were talking, and all of a sudden we had a nonprofit that we formed. And there were four of you. Stephanie was one of our initial group of entrepreneurs, and there were three others. I was going to just lift up their names and their business real quickly, but there's Brandon Christian of Poor People Skincare Products, mm-hmm. and Toshua Alexander of 7 Day Ones, and he's a musician with a clothing line and kind of all around sort of rhythmic. He's rhythmic. Mm-hmm. He's a wonderful person to talk to. And Evan Springfield Cobb, and can you talk a little bit about what Evan does?
Yeah, Evan provides financial literacy for kids and youth and parents, but mainly for kids. And so that's something that we really need. And our founding members are awesome. If you go to our website, you can find out more about them at webbsquared.org.
Mm-hmm. And that's Web with two B's, WEBB. shall we just jump in and let's talk about some washerwomen and what was going on in Atlanta in 1881 and why they went on strike, and and why this story, why we found this story very appealing, why we wanted to talk about it today.
Yeah.
This was actually after the Reconstruction era, which lasted from 1865 to 1877. So that point in time is very fascinating to me, especially since finding out that the Reconstruction era was famously known as the period where over 2,000 African Americans held public office, starting on the local level up to the state Senate. So many, or not so many years after that, in 1881, with the help of churches and Black ministers, they called the strike on July 19th for the washerwomen's strike. And it was about Black women organizing against discrimination and unfair wages.
Awesome. Thank you, Mashallah. I could not have said it better. Yeah.
So you said that you always found this period of time interesting. Like, what draws you to it? What do you think about that?
Being someone who is just interested in learning about Black history and resilience, the resilience of Black people, I was so just amazed when I found out that not too long after slavery, Black people started getting into high positions, and I was wondering how is that even possible, being that Black people weren't even allowed to read when they were enslaved. So I just found it so amazing how Black people were just so resilient and doing their own research and learning how to read on their own and getting to a point where, not too long after slavery, they were able to run offices. And we don't really hear those stories. I've never heard that in school, or it wasn't really touched on or talked about like it should have been. And so I just started looking more into it, and I just had, I don't know, it was just overwhelming almost. And I just wanted to know more. So going back to the washerwomen's strike, this was during a time where, lynching was still going on. Black people and Black service workers made to feel beneath everyone, and they still felt that they could make a change and that they deserved better despite all that was going on. And so, finding out this history is just really amazing and just proves that anyone can, get together and create something powerful, like a movement.
Yeah, I mean, Black people were organizing right after slavery. They were organizing. They were like, you know what? They were coming together, being able to see their common denominators, common stations, the thing that they shared. And they were looking about themselves and saying, hey, wait a minute, if we stick together, if we become a collective and we use our voices together, we can have some power, and we can start to express that power and start to make the change. Here's the thing that stood out with me about finding out about this story. And honestly, the first time I ever got an inkling about this story, Nina Freelon had a play that referenced washerwomen. But I didn't look into it. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. But when I looked into it, here's the thing. It wasn't just one strike, and it wasn't just one place. I think it was Atlanta, Georgia, Jackson, Mississippi, and Galveston, Texas, right? Here's the other thing that just blew me away. It was Black men, Black women, and poor working white people. So that was totally amazing.
You were talking about how there were white women involved in the strikes as well, and how people were collaborating and working together.
White men, poor working people. So the question becomes, Why come we didn't know about this? What do you think?
We don't know about it because most history is whitewashed. I'm sorry, but
But why is history whitewashed?
It's whitewashed because, the system wants there to be a particular narrative about power, to hold on to power. If we know that there are all these stories out there that aren't told, we look at the world differently. And I think part of what we're doing here with the remedy is to challenge people to say, do you really know your history? Do you really know the true stories of the people around you and the lives of the people around you? When you know these stories and you hear these stories, your perspective starts to change. And that's one of the things that we talk a lot in our work with our conscious conversations and stuff, is the power of perspective. I don't know, I might be kind of idealistic, but it would be really nice if collectively our perspective changed so that, we can start to realize that there's plenty out there for everybody. I mean, we're in the office of what is called Abundance NC, but there's so much out there for everybody. There doesn't have to be this power over dynamic. We could definitely live in a world where we had relational power with each other, and we could still all have food, all have money, all have education. There doesn't have to be this divide and conquer that we get, in our society. It's a mentality that can just be overcome. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a power of perspective, and I find that hearing these stories and learning these stories, it just changes my own personal narrative about who I am as a white woman in relationship to, my world and my culture and the people around me.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I was just thinking about all the odds were supposed to be stacked against them. They, in the papers, they were saying, oh, they won't make it. They won't make a change. But, I read that in just 3 weeks, a very short time, they went from 20 members to 3,000 members. And they ended up being so successful in their mission that they actually inspired other domestic workers, such as cooks and maids and hotel workers. And I feel like stories like this are hidden because of how inspiring they can be to people that they want to keep down.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good way of saying it. And I would just add on to that to say that, so the whole reason why race was constructed, and what do we mean by that? Meaning this whole black, white, whatever, it was constructed so that rich white people could tell poor white people that their enemy was poor black people. Literally. It was constructed so that poor working people could never see their shared identity. Mm-hmm. And when poor working people can never see their shared identity, rich white people thrive. They thrive off of that division, right? And so rich white people figured out a way to divide poor people, right? By constructing race. And then they took it even further and used poor white people to police poor black people. And that's literally how we got here. Police either literally through the police or by just, maintaining a segregationist culture or maintaining a superiority belief system, right? And so we have this class system, this race, let me say that right. We have this racial caste system based on class. You understand? Based on race, but originally created by class. Yeah. So that rich people can stay rich. So that the 1% could keep profiting off of people's labor, and this was the easiest way to do it. And so there's no way they would uplift a story like this, because this goes against that. Mm-hmm. completely. You know, it goes against, like, this is where that didn't work. You know, so it's just these stories, man, are just like, Did you know how many probably more stories around people, Black people organizing, coming together? And look, check it out. Once it was effective with the poor whites against poor Blacks, which were enslaved, kidnapped and enslaved Blacks. Once slavery and, you know, Black people not being considered people, right? First we weren't even considered human beings. And we had to, and then even after the Emancipation Proclamation, and we were fighting for, you know, rights, but we still weren't considered human beings. You know, 3/5 of a man, if I believe that. But once they did that, then they took it, they were like, oh, this, who's they? We talked about they. The boogeyman. Rich corporate people, you know, rich, whatever. Plantation owners, you know, I guess the professions, the businesses change, but the who they are remains, right? That mindset. But then what they did, you know, and so it worked. And so now you say, okay, let's separate even further. The dark-skinned Black versus the light-skinned, the city versus the country, the domestics versus the fields, the educated versus the uneducated. You know, now it's the, you know, the degree corporate versus the, you know, somebody working in McDonald's or Burger. You know, it's just such bullshit. It really is.
Well, it touches on that whole mindset of scarcity versus abundance. And it feels to me like there's something within, and I'll just say it, like this white superiority complex that we are afraid we're not going to have enough. And so we just amass. And it comes down to this whole idea of, you know, what is our mindset around how much we need and how much we have to have? And part of like maybe breaking out of some of this construct that we have is educating ourselves and changing our mindset around this idea. It's almost like it's a gospel of scarcity. You know, there's not enough for everybody. So I have to amass as much as I can in order to save, you know, myself or my family. And then it creates scarcity. But yet at the same time, when you go out into the world and you look at the world, if we created other kinds of systems, we could all have, you know, something.
So how do we change the narrative from scarcity to abundance?
Well, you know, I keep saying identity. We have to change our identity from just physical to spiritual inside physical. If you don't like that spiritual word, too bad. But no, I can say it another way. Energy. So, my opinion, the reason why our world has a scarcity perspective is because we have reduced our identity to be more physical than energy or spiritual. If you put more value on the material things, the flesh, the chair, you know, and you forget where things come from. And so really there's like two parts of creation. So first there's the thought, and then there's the thing, right? And the thought is invisible, right? It's not tangible. You can't like pick up a thought unless you realize that you're actually like picking up this pen, which was a thought first. So we are spiritual beings having a physical experience on a time-space world. There's a whole lot of assumptions there. We don't have the time to prove it, but but I would love to debate about that. Because now that we have quantum physics and things like that, like we can actually prove some of this stuff that religions, right, have stated as truth, the truth about who we are. And so when you understand that there's nothing that you can see or touch or feel that doesn't have life in it that was not a thought first. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It wasn't a thought that became an idea that you believed in, that other people believed in, and then you acted on it. And so if that's where things come from, how can you run out of that? There's an abundance of that. That means as long as you can think and have faith in it and act on it, then you can create literally whatever it is. There's not less of nothing.
And I think this story of the washerwomen coming together and creating community and creating change within their community is a concrete example of taking that thought and creating action. And that thought was around this idea that their jobs were hard and they were in this system that was telling them that you have to fight for every penny and keeping them scarce. And they're saying, no, we think that there's more abundance out there for us. And they organized around it.
Yeah, they knew that they had power. This is what we're talking about. When we're talking about scarcity and abundance, we're talking about a relationship to power and source. And when you have an understanding that is what makes you alive, that's what quickens, like that's what, when you're connected to that and you sit in that and you organize around that and you have relationships around that, you have the power to change some things. You know, this is about how you answer the question, who are you? That's to me a root. Like that's where the most leverage is at a root cause of like how we got here.
So how does this story of the washerwoman connect with what we are doing with WEBB Squared?
Well, we are developing relationships with entrepreneurs who have wonderful skills or provide services or create products. And we are in relationship with these entrepreneurs in ways that organize our resources, our information, and our bodies, like our collective, so that we can have the agency, right, to support like massive growth. So for each entrepreneur that we're in a relationship with, that they get better and we get better. Right? That they're able to harness more fully their businesses, and that we can help with that in all the ways. You know, we know some of the ways, but then other ways are so organic it'll come to us. And that we're like in this I want to call it like a living infrastructure.
Ecosystem?
An ecosystem of people that are also in businesses that can help. So if you need something, somebody else may have something, or somebody else may know someone. And in this organized space, we are that much more powerful to help make our businesses all that they can be in the unique ways that they can be.
And I think that the work that we're doing speaks to abundance, and we will help change some of that mindset around scarcity.
Yeah. The whole, the abundance of understanding our wholeness and bringing all that wholeness together. And if there's some lack somewhere, then we can work on that. We can work on that together. Kind of deprogram some of the thought about scarcity and lack. Yeah. And put the power back into, listen, I understand that systems need to change and that policies need to change and that we need to be intentional about naming race in those policies and systems that need changing. And at the same time, I also understand that people are the change agents of those systems and policies, right?
And so there's a power in working with people to change their mindset around those issues.
Correct. And if we're organized and working together, then we can use our people, our networks, and our resources to have the capacity to make those changes.
Where do you see WEBB Squared in a year?
Hopefully funded, so we can work out programs.
Yeah, we have amazing programs that we are developing around individualized coaching, as well as mindset trainings and financial trainings, and bringing people into community through our network of entrepreneurs. We feel like these are the things that we're going to be providing people. And right now, it's just a matter of getting funding in order to put that program out into the world.
So we're we've got services and products that we're selling. We're doing donations. We're raising funds. We're writing grants. So yeah, it's just like I described it like this, because we're human and we're like, we just had an idea and acted on it, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like as if a store is opening up. You don't invite people to come in and shop and you don't have the shelves stocked and the cash register set up. So in a year, we hope to be ready to open.
Well, hopefully we'll open sooner than that, but we are working really hard to get there.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of already open because we're working with our entrepreneurs, but I'm talking about to like really at the scale that we envision.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing. I'm really excited to see what's to come from all of this, and already witnessing everyone coming together and the mindset. It's a really beautiful thing to see.
Yeah. Well, you're like one of our WEBB Squared entrepreneurs, and you're working your business because we hired you.
Yeah. So it's already happening.
Yeah, it's already happening. This wraps up The Remedy. The revolution is through dialogue. Believe that.
The Remedy. The Remedy. The Remedy. This has been a joint podcast of WEBB Squared and Afro Future Productions. For those of you interested in learning more about our work at WEBB Squared, you can find out more at webbsquared.org. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This is our conscious conversation. We hope you will subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. Join the Remedy Membership Forum on Patreon to join us monthly for our members-only discussion. That's it for today. Until next week, thanks for listening.